Hi everyone, this is Colleen Dieter with atxgardens.com. Welcome to the ATX Gardens podcast. With over 20 years of experience helping Central Texans with their yards, I'm a certified arborist, sustainable landscape designer, and founder of Central Texas Seed Savers. This week on the podcast, I'll give you timely tips on what to do for your plants right now. But first, if you're watching me on YouTube, please click the like button, click the subscribe button, and put your questions and comments in the comments box, and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. You can also follow me on Instagram at atxgardens_. That's with the low hyphen at the end, atxgardens_. And finally, for more information on today's topics, hang around till the end of the show and I'll share some resources with you so you can follow up with more information. Thanks for listening. Hey there. Thank you for joining me today for episode 2 of my new podcast, which airs on October 2nd, 2025. I'm Colleen Dieter, a landscape consultant at atxgardens.com. Some of my customers told me that they wish they could get alerts or reminders from me about what to do in their yards, and I figured a podcast would be a good way to keep everyone in the loop about what's happening in our Central Texas gardens. And today's episode is all about what to do in your garden in the first half of October. But first, this episode is sponsored by my landscape consulting business, atxgardens.com. I help my customers by alleviating their anxieties about their yards. During a consultation, you can ask me anything about what to plant, how to care for your soil, tree problems, lawn maintenance, anything you can think of. You can make an appointment with me for a landscape consultation at your property at atxgardens.com. That's ATX as in Austin, Texas. All right, so now let's get to the show. So this week I met with Karina in East Austin. She has a very small yard and she wasn't sure about what options she had to fit into it. She is wishing for a pocket prairie, a fig tree, privacy from the busy street where she lives, rainwater management, and vegetables. During our consultation, we figured out how to fit all of those elements into her small yard. And at the end of our consultation, Karina was ready to get gardening. Make an appointment today with me at atxgardens.com. So in general, it's the time of year to adjust your irrigation system for cooler weather. The City of Austin Water announced on September 2nd, 2025, that we're returning to conservation stage drought water use restrictions because Lake Travis is almost full after our much needed summer rains. And so that's really good news for gardeners. So go check out your watering day, find out what the schedule is for your place on their website, and the link to that watering day schedule is in the show notes. Okay, so do not trim your trees, shrubs, or perennials now. Trimming anything at this time of the year stimulates new growth, and we need the plants to stop actively growing so that they can get ready for winter. Plus, most of your perennials are getting ready to bloom, so if you trim them now, you'll be removing flower buds and then they won't flower. Do not feed your plants with fertilizers after October 1st. Fertilizers are going to stimulate new growth, and at this time of year, we want the plants to slow down and not be actively growing. A little compost, seaweed, or other soil amendments are great to use anytime, but don't use fertilizers now. So, how do you know the difference between a fertilizer and a soil amendment? Okay, it's kind of hard. There's a lot of gray area, but in general, if the package has three numbers on the front showing nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium amounts, that's a true fertilizer rather than a soil amendment. So, seaweed is an example of what I would consider to be a supplement or a soil amendment rather than a fertilizer. And it's particularly good to have on hand going into winter when the weather fluctuates wildly and that can stress plants. Now, seaweed does have three numbers on the front of the bottle, but two of them are zeros, and the only number on there is the number one for potassium. It's the last number. And that's very, very low amount of potassium. So it's not really feeding the plants in an aggressive way. So seaweed is okay to use. I consider it to be more of a supplement or a soil amendment rather than a fertilizer, even though it's an exception to the sort of general rule that if it has three numbers on the front of the package, it's going to be a fertilizer. So look for products that are soil amendments or supplements rather than fertilizers. And like I said, the seaweed is really good for going into the winter months. And I have an Amazon affiliate link for Mexicrop seaweed in the show notes, and it's also available in the store on my website. And like I mentioned in the last episode, fall is a very good time for soil testing. So think about that. If you've never had your soil tested before, it can be a fun science experiment. It's a good way to get to know your home a little bit better. And you can send a sample along to the Texas A&M University Soil Lab or the Texas Plant and Soil Lab that's down in the Rio Grande Valley, or any soil lab in the US, really, that you choose from. And they'll have instructions about how to take the sample on their site, or you can even call them up and talk to someone who can help explain the sort of complicated process about how to do it. October is time to plant and transplant any type of plant. So get to it. At this time of year, most of the plants are reaching their maximum size. The existing plants in your landscape are getting really, really big. And so, if your landscape is looking a little crowded or overgrown, where maybe the plants are starting to cover each other a little too much, it's a good time to take some plants out and move them to open spots or pass them along to a friend. Are you cleaning up summer plants that have faded? I'm pulling out common sunflowers from my yard. Those common sunflowers are wildflowers that have gone to seed and they're dying now, and that's normal for them. They're true annuals, so they die after they make seeds. I'm harvesting some of those seed heads to save for next spring and also to share with other gardeners. I'm the founder of Central Texas Seed Savers, and our organization supports seed libraries around our region. We are seriously short on seeds right now, and I need you to bring us seeds. And you can bring seeds to any Austin Public Library branch. Bastrop Library is also looking for seeds right now. And it wouldn't surprise me if the other suburban and exurban seed libraries are running low on seeds. So check with your librarians to see if your library has a seed collection and bring any seeds to share. Just pack the seeds into paper bags or envelopes. Seal that package up really well. Write the name of the plant and the year the seeds were collected and the words for the seed collection on the bag or the envelope. Or you can keep the seeds and bring them to a seed swap event this fall. And there's more details later in the show about upcoming seed swaps. September was hot and dry after all this year, and you may be feeling some fatigue from watering plants. I definitely am feeling fatigued from watering. If you've been planting or transplanting new plants in September, be sure to keep them well watered to get them established. And I have a few tools that help me make the job a little easier, including a handy dandy little round sprinkler that I use for watering large patches of perennials. It's available on my website, atxgardens.com, as an Amazon affiliate link, so I earn commissions from that. It's in the store there at atxgardens.com, and there's also a link to it in the show notes. It's just a little round yellow sprinkler, super simple, inexpensive, durable, easy to use, great for watering perennials when you're trying to get them newly established. And thanks to my friend Leah for recommending that little round sprinkler to me. So now I'm going to talk about woody plants a little bit. Lately, I've been digging out sapling trees in my yard and transplanting them and giving them to friends and donating them to tree folks. And they have very deep roots, and that makes it really hard to dig them out. And so I use a tool called the root slayer for digging out small trees, and it works great. Again, see the show notes for my Amazon affiliate link, or you can find that linked at atxgardens.com. I want to thank Roger at Natural Gardener for introducing me to that tool, and they also carry that tool at Natural Gardener. October is the best time to plant woody plants like trees and shrubs, and that also includes woody vines like native cross vines and Carolina jessamine. Planting now, as those woody plants are going dormant, gives them plenty of time to get settled in before summer heat sets in. So now's a good time to shop for trees because many of the trees go on sale when they start to lose their leaves. And the nurseries also want to make room for seasonal stuff like pumpkins, Christmas trees, and stuff like that. So even though the trees are losing their leaves and they don't look great, dormancy is the best time to plant. So visit your locally owned garden center for the best tree and shrub choices. And those woody vines too. So some of your established trees are going to start losing their leaves here in October. If you're new to Austin, you may notice that there are many trees that do not lose their leaves in the fall here, especially live oak trees, which is one of our most common species. Live oak trees are called live oak trees because they keep their leaves all winter and they look live. Keep as many leaves as you can on your property and use them as mulch in your planting beds, in your vegetable garden. It's free mulch and it's the best mulch. Chopping them up with a leaf vacuum or a lawnmower makes them even better for your plants, and then they don't blow around. So chop up those leaves and put them in your beds. Okay, so hopefully you're enjoying a second round of blooms on your roses for the fall. If you have repeat bloomers in your garden, there's not much to do. with roses right now, other than enjoy them. I do not deadhead them in the fall. I leave the dead flowers on. I have antique roses, and most of them make hips, which is the fruit of the rose. And when you leave those hips on, it sends a signal to the plant that it's time to stop growing and it's time for winter. So I just leave them alone. Okay, and now we've got our middle of the podcast sponsor break. Hi, all. This is Colleen Dieter, and you're listening to the ATX Gardens podcast. You know, I give plenty of garden advice on the show, but there's nothing like meeting in person to get the best information for your plants and landscape. And that's what I can do for you. Visit atxgardens.com. As a certified arborist and professional gardener, I've been giving advice to do-it-yourselfers for over 20 years. I help my customers by alleviating their anxieties about their yards. Visit atxgardens.com to book a consultation with me. During the consultation, we'll walk through your yard and answer all of your questions. Also at atxgardens.com, you can shop Colleen's favorite things. That's gardening, apparel, tools, and books that I often mention during this podcast. From trees to vegetables to wildflowers, I'm here to help. Make an appointment at atxgardens.com. Okay, and now I'm going to tell you a little bit about what's going on in the garden with perennials and bulbs. So, October is an awesome time for planting perennials and ornamental grasses. Perennials are plants that grow up in the spring, bloom in summer and fall, and then the tops die in the winter, and then the plants grow back again from the ground in the spring. Examples include lantanas and indigo spires salvia, so now is a great time for planting them. We're also really lucky in Austin to have cool season perennials in our gardens, and they are starting to re-emerge now at this time of year. Some of my favorite plants are perennials that have this opposite life cycle of a typical perennial, like white yarrow, spiderworts, and lyre-leaf sage. They grow back from their roots in the fall. They're green all winter, bloom in early spring, and then their tops die in the summer when it's hot. Then the next fall, they do it all over again. They usually grow under trees and adapted this life cycle to take advantage of the extra sun that comes through when the trees lose their leaves in the winter. So these plants may be showing up in nurseries at this time of year when they start looking good again, but some of these plants can be pretty hard to find. So you'll want to come check out some of the plant swaps and seed swaps going on this fall to see if you can find those. And I'm going to announce that later in the podcast, all of those seed swap events that are coming up. It's also a good time to divide perennials, bulbs, and yuccas, and it's a good time to divide agaves. The root slayer I mentioned earlier, that is a good tool for digging up tree saplings, is also great for dividing agave pups from the mother plant. So that way you can transplant those agave pups or you can pass them along to friends. And if you don't know how to divide something, at atxgardens.com, you'll find my 3-volume set of booklets called Let's Care for Texas Plants. And that's a maintenance guide. And it has a diagram and instructions about how to divide bulbs and yuccas and perennials. So check that out if you don't know how to divide stuff. And of course, there's a link in the show notes. And so now is a part of the show that I like to call nature stuff. At the beginning of October, I've noticed more butterflies starting to visit my garden. And I've noticed that they tend to visit when tree leaves start to fall. And sometimes out of the corner of my eye, I find it hard to distinguish between falling leaves and fluttering butterfly wings. Is it safe to assume that butterflies evolved to look like falling leaves to confuse predators? I don't know. I saw the first few monarch butterflies traveling through on their migration route to Mexico about 2 weeks ago. Very thrilling. While October is one of the busiest times for gardeners, it's also maybe the best time to enjoy the garden in Austin. I want you to actively rebel against the current pop and political culture that actively disconnects us from nature and humanity. Isolation is the true enemy, and connection is the cure. Sit down in the garden this month as much as possible. Invite friends over to share a beverage and have a real, meaningful conversation and pass along plants and seeds. Slow down and enjoy the spaces you created with your beloved partners, the plants, and our home, Central Texas. Now it's time for vegetables. October is time to plant cool season veg. Add some compost to the soil and then plant your cool season crops that will live through the cold this winter. Arugula, radishes, Swiss chard, mustard, turnips, bok choy, beets, collards, carrots, lettuce, and kale can all be planted by sowing seeds directly into the garden soil. Broccoli, cauliflower, and cabbages can be planted in the garden as small plants right now. You can also plant artichokes and their cousins, cardoons, as small plants. Now is the time to start onions from seed, either directly in the garden or in pots indoors to transplant out later. And it's also time to plant garlic cloves directly into the ground. If you're letting any part of your vegetable garden rest in the winter, plant a cover crop now. Alfalfa, rye, clovers, and even Texas bluebonnets and Austrian winter pea are just a few of the many cool season cover crops to choose from that you could plant now. Cover crops feed and protect the soil while the garden and the gardener are resting. And sometimes we need to take breaks from vegetable gardening, and that is okay. Get ready for freezing weather that could come as early as November 15th, which is very hard to believe, but true. Even though our cool season veg can survive cold weather, they can be damaged by freezes, and that damage will set them back so they won't produce as much good food for you. And they could be more vulnerable to pests when they're damaged. To keep your cool season vegetables thriving, be ready with some floating row cover fabric, cloches, or blankets or sheets to toss over them when a freeze is forecast. My friend Kristen from Small Town Farm, who's also a Central Texas Seed Savers volunteer, gave me a great tip about protecting small plants from freezes by turning a mason jar upside down on top of them to act as a tiny cloche or a mini greenhouse. Options for protecting your vegetables from freezes abound, so do some research and figure out which strategy works best for you, and start gathering your materials now so you aren't freaking out when the first freeze comes. Now onto herbs. What's going on with herbs? Take out your basil, make some pesto, stick it in the freezer to use this winter. Okay, all the warm season annual herbs should be removed around this time of year to make room for your cool season annual herbs. Does your basil have seeds in the dead flower heads? Bring them to the library. Plant seeds right now directly into the garden for cool season annual herbs like cilantro, parsley, dill, calendula, and fennel. These are all plants that will only live through this fall and winter, and then they'll go to seed and die when it gets hot next spring. These plants will thrive this winter if you provide them with some cover during hard freezes. So get your covers ready. Be sure to add compost to your planting areas before planting anything new, and mix a little decomposed granite in with it for good drainage for your Mediterranean herbs like thyme and oregano. Plant all those perennial herbs now. Perennials are plants that live for longer than 1 year. And on that note, it's time for wildflowers. This is the best time of year to plant wildflower seeds, especially early spring bloomers like bluebonnets and pink evening primrose. Okay, my friends at Native American Seed have the best wildflower seeds. Do not buy mixes from big box stores that often have non-native invasive plants mixed in. Some of the worst yards I've ever been in are yards where people tore out all of the grass and then bought a seed mix from a big box store and dumped it all over the place. Do not do that. Have a strategy and get good seeds from Native American Seed. That's Native American Seed at seedsource.com, and the link is below in the show notes. And I just love them. I don't get any money for plugging them. I have a bunch of events and classes coming up, and y'all are invited. So, Central Texas Seed Savers Heirloom Fruit Tree Preservation Project is presenting a talk about the importance of preserving heirloom fruit trees. It's at the Austin Water Utilities Center for Environmental Research at Hornsby Bend in Southeast Austin. And that is on Sunday, October 12th from 9:30 to 11:30. Saturday, October 18th, I'll be at the Healing Roots and Wings Festival at Givens Park from 11 to 4. I'll be teaching a basic organic vegetable gardening class from noon to 2. Save the date for Saturday, November 1st for Central Texas Seed Savers Fall Festival fundraiser at Greensleeves Nursery in Pflugerville. Nessa from Microlife and Jay from Texas Gardener Magazine will be speaking. And I'm putting together a very special presentation about seed saving. Food, drinks, raffles, all kinds of fun will be going on. That's a fundraiser, so we're selling tickets for that, and all proceeds go to Central Texas Seed Savers, preventing extinction of our special Central Texas plants through seed sharing. Now, speaking of seed sharing, Saturday, November 8th, Central Texas Seed Savers is hosting our big annual seed swap event at the Austin Public Library Central location. So that's downtown on Cesar Chavez at the Austin Public Central Library. It's always tons of fun. I look forward to it every year. This year, we're holding it in the gallery area of the library, which is new and it will be delightful. Join us between 11 and 1. Now, you can bring any seeds you have to share, whether they're packaged or commercial seeds. You can bring them even if they're still attached to twigs from your garden. Even if you don't have seeds, you can still come and get seeds. No problem. Vegetables, trees, native plants, herbs, any kind of seed, all are welcome. This event is free and you don't need to register. Just come. Saturday, November 8th at the Central Library downtown from 11 to 1. Also that same day, Saturday, November 8th, my gardening bestie and my co-host for the Horticulturati podcast, Leah Turner, has a landscape that she designed called Pollinator Paradise. And that's included in the Garden Conservancy tour. So please get a ticket and go say hi to Leah. I'll be stopping by to congratulate her and to see that gorgeous garden after the seed swap. Monday, November 17th, I'll be presenting on tree planting at the Williamson County Master Gardeners monthly meeting, and that starts at 6:30. So more information about all of those events will be available on my website at atxgardens.com, so you don't have to worry about writing everything down. You can find it there. All right, thanks so much for joining me for this episode. Please like and subscribe to my show. Please write us a review. Share this episode with a friend. If you have a friend who's also plant obsessed, they may enjoy it. Connect with us on Instagram. It's ATX Gardens with an underscore at the end. It's ATX Gardens _ And please check out the show notes and tune in next time. I'm Colleen Dieter with atxgardens.com. Thanks so much for listening. Thank you all so much for listening today. If you found my podcast helpful, please like and subscribe to the ATX Gardens podcast. And please share this podcast with your friends and neighbors. Visit atxgardens.com to book an appointment with me and check out Let's Care for Texas Plants, my native plant maintenance guide. See you next week.